Hey, I'm Andrea, and in this video we're just going to walk through Grayson Rodriguez's Major League debut, what he offers, and different strategies he used in terms of pitch sequencing against different types of hitters. Just a quick overview, Rodriguez is a top prospect of the Baltimore Orioles. He made his Major League debut this past Wednesday, and he throws 5 pitches. He has a four-seam, a changeup, a cutter, a slider, and a curveball. And based on that one look that we had of him, he's mostly reliant on his four-seam and his slider against right-handed hitters. And then against left-handed hitters, he throws the four-seam and the changeup primarily, but he also mixes in the curveball. And he didn't throw his cutter enough to draw any conclusions, but just based on a cutter being stereotypically a platoon neutralizer, I would assume that he throws the cutter mostly against left-handed batters. Just some overall takeaways from Rodriguez's debut. The first time through the order, he threw the fastball first pitch to every batter except for 2 batters, Garcia and Duran. He ended up throwing every pitch in his arsenal by the time he reached the third batter, which was Nathaniel Lowe. But he was mostly reliant on his four-seam changeup and slider. The curveball and the cutter came more into play the second time through the lineup. Rodriguez was actually pitching backwards to some of the tougher hitters in the lineup this time. So that's Semien, Seager, and Lowe. So now let's walk through 3 batters who have different plate approaches to see what kind of strategies Rodriguez used against them. So we're going to start out with Marcus Semien, who I believe has a more neutral plate approach. So let's look at his whiff percentage and slugging percentage heat maps so we can get an idea of game plan. We can see that Semien historically does the most damage on pitches middle and inside, and has a tendency to whiff at pitches low and away and high. And walking through his first at-bat, this is the pitch order. I'm sorry, it's kind of hard to see here. It's a four-seam high, then he threw a four-seam middle, slider away, four-seam low away, slider away, and then the four-seam low and away. So with the exception of the four-seam middle, Rodriguez focused on switching Semien's eye level, so going from high to low, and he stayed toward the lower outside third of the zone. In Semien's second at-bat, Rodriguez started with a slider to the middle of the zone, which resulted in a ground out. In his third at-bat, he threw Semien a cutter low and then a changeup middle, which resulted in a ground ball, but that was a bit surprising because changeups and cutters are typically thrown to batters of the opposite hand. But what that tells me is that Rodriguez is confident enough in his cutter and his changeup to throw it to batters of the same hand. Now let's look at left-handed hitter Corey Seager, who has a more aggressive approach at the plate. So based on Seager's heat maps below, we can see that he historically whiffs at pitches high and low and does the most damage against pitches inner third and up and in. So walking through his first at-bat, the order was a four-seam to the outer third, changeup low, changeup inside, four-seam inside upper third, and a changeup middle. Rodriguez's pitch locations in this at-bat signaled to me that he struggled a bit with command, as he was likely trying to hit that lower inside corner with those 2 changeups outside and was trying to get the four seams up and away. And I think he got lucky with the results of the changeup that it ended up just as a fielder's choice, like a ground ball, and not anything more significant since it was a changeup to the middle of the zone. It's also possible that those changeups were meant to be inside and not in zone, and that Rodriguez was hoping Seager would chase because he does have a high chase rate, but in my opinion, they were just too far off the plate to get Seager to chase at those. This is a similar tactic that we saw against Semien in terms of changing eye level, throwing things high and low, and then also using an off-speed pitch like a changeup or, in Semien's case, a slider to try to mess up the hitter's timing. In Seager's second at-bat, Rodriguez went true north-south, so he started with a curveball low, which got a chase from Seager. Rodriguez then threw 3 straight four-seams. The first was a ball, just missed the zone low, even though it looks to me like it's a strike. The second was up and in for a swinging strike, and the third was above the zone on the outer third and got another chase, swing and miss for a strikeout. In Seager's third at-bat, Rodriguez went true east-west, so he started with 2 changeups outside, and then he threw a fastball to the outer third, changeup to the inner third, and then a fastball again to the outer third for another strikeout. I think Seager's at-bats are the most telling in terms of what Rodriguez can actually do. He did a really great job of pitching to all quadrants of the zone and giving hitters just a completely different look every at-bat. The third batter we're going to look at is Mitch Garver, who has a more patient plate approach. So based on Garver's heat maps below, he does damage on pitches that end up almost anywhere in zone, but especially the inner half, and he has a tendency to whiff on pitches high, low, and to the outer third. So looking at the first at-bat, we have a four-seam outside, a four-seam outside, and then a cutter outer third. And Rodriguez focused on that outer third against Garver because of what we just talked about with him whiffing on the outer third. And then with an 8-mile-per-hour difference between the four-seam and the cutter, Rodriguez was able to throw the cutter to mess with Garver's timing. The cutter also moves in the opposite direction of the four-seam, which runs, and the cutter cuts. So Rodriguez showed Garver different movement in hopes that he would get him to whiff or at least get weak contact, and he ended up getting a ground out to the catcher. In Garver's second at-bat, Rodriguez stayed mostly on the outer third again, but instead of a cutter, Rodriguez threw 2 sliders away and mixed in a changeup to the inner third. and this at-bat ended with a strikeout which capitalized on Garver's weakness on the outer third of the plate again. So what can we expect from Rodriguez moving forward? Well, he's in the rotation right now because Kyle Bradish was injured, so it's unclear whether or not he'll stick when Bradish is ready to return. But I think for now he's done a really good job of demonstrating his raw tools and abilities. He has weapons he could throw to both hands, he's able to change eye level, he's able to mess up batters' timing and keep them off balance, he could throw to all quadrants of the zone, and he could show them different things every time he sees them multiple times through. If you like this video, please hit subscribe and follow me on Twitter @ScalcoReport. Thanks for watching!